Hi, my name's Anastasia and welcome to my channel. I want to show you the surface technique which sort of reminds me of batik fabric. I will show you 3 variations. They're only slightly different from each other and you will need pretty much the same tools for each. You will find the full list in the description box below. You will need light clay for the base, a roller, a craft knife, and a blade, acrylic paint, stencils. Use stencils where the pattern is dense. Some shape cutters. I'm going with a floral theme here. Chalk pastels, a sponge for the paint, wet wipes, and translucent clay. Roll out your base clay. In this variation, I'm using yellow and green pastels in different shades. With the knife, shade them onto your base, starting with lighter colors and then adding darker ones. Spread them around with your fingers or a sponge. Position a stencil over the base, slightly roll it so it doesn't move too much, and with the wet wipe, remove the pastels off the base through the stencil until you're happy with it. Next, we will need acrylic paints. White in my case, but I think a dark green would also look great for just a slightly different look. Take your sponge and dip it in paint. Dab the sponge on the edge of your cutters and without pressing hard, stamp them on your base. Don't press too hard. You don't want to texture just the paint imprints. Continue with different cutters until you fill the base to your satisfaction. You can add some more elements freehand, like the little white polka dots I put with the dotting tool. Then let the paint dry completely. After it's dry, straighten out any indents with a roller. You want your sheet to be as smooth as possible to avoid air bubbles when we put the translucent layer on. Roll out the translucent on the thinnest setting of your pasta machine and then gently stretch it some more with your hands. I'm using Cernit Translucent because it is one of the clearest ones. Carefully put it on the base, again try to avoid trapping air. If you do have some air bubbles, poke them with a needle or your blade and smooth out the spots. I also use a piece of paper to varnish the base a little, helps with a smoother surface. Your veneer is now ready. If you want smooth edges, use a cling wrap to cut out your shapes. Bake them covered for the temp and time recommended by the clay manufacturer. I used Polymer clay and Cernit, so I baked at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Here are the finished pieces closer. I will speed up through most of the next two examples because the steps are very similar, slight variation in the tools we use with the paints. Here I'm using the scraps from the last veneer as a base, same tools with the addition of clear stems. You can use whichever stems you have on hand. Pick your colors. I'm using reds and yellows this time. Same process of shaving the pastels onto the sheet and then spreading them with your fingers. Again, use the stencil to wipe off the areas on the base. So here, instead of cutters, I'm using clear stamps. In a similar way, I'm using the sponge to put some paint on the stamps and then on clay. Add more details with the dotting tool if you want, and then let the paint dry. After it's dry, repeat the steps with translucent clay. Cut out your shapes and bake. In this third variation, I'm using the scraps from previous ones as a base and a blue color scheme. Same process as before. Add pastels to the base, use stencils for the background pattern. This time I will use a silk screen for the top design. Smooth it onto your base and be careful, since we used pastels, the silk screen will not adhere very well to the base, so you might need to hold on to it while applying the paint. I wanted to use white and blue paints, but the blue one exploded in my hands, and it was a choice between ruining my silk screen or my hands. Choose the silk screen. Don't let the paint sit on it for too long, or it will clog up the little mesh and it will not come out. Spread the paint over the silk screen with a squeegee or an old credit card, lift the silk screen and then wash it right away. Let the paint dry before adding the translucent layer. Cut out your shapes and bake. And you're done! You can use these cabochons for earrings, pendants, and whatever else comes to mind. You can sand them, you can put resin on them, or just varnish them. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.